Interesting enough, my dad was super persistent in me being a pharmacist or nurse or whatever. My mom just kind of went along with it. It's like, whatever. But eventually when I snapped, my mom was like, yeah, whatever she wants. I think it was almost like she was waiting for me to snap, but she was never truly going to encourage me to snap. And my parents are self to change, okay? So they're older. But even back then, they were not particularly young. So even though they are the same generation, you can see, I saw as a child growing up, the clear difference in their perspective. Meanwhile, I have people my age right now with 14-year-old kids, highly educated folks, but are still doing exactly what you're talking about, telling their kids what they should be doing. And they are barely 40. And I'm like, why are you doing this? Like, they did it to you and you hated it. Why are you doing it? So it's easy, I think there's a little bit of that generational factor there, but also personality. Just, your dad seemed like he's well-rounded. Like, I'm not, you want to go clean toilets? Go for it. You want to open a janitorial business? Do. You don't want to go to college? Whatever. Just make sure you can support yourself. And I think ultimately that is the fundamental of human development. It's a little bit of both. And I think we immigrants, Asian, African, no matter when we come to the US, we focus so much on being successful and wanting our children to be successful that we forget that success has so many different routes and detours. And just because this is what you did at work doesn't mean I want it. As a matter of fact, most children see their parents growing up doing something and they absolutely don't want to do that then. They want to do something else. But parents are not always so open-minded. So 70-some-year-old parents, great, like you do whatever you want to do. And a 40-year-old dad is still shoving stuff down their kids' throat in the United States at this age. In the age of Google, they're still doing it. So once again, it's a little bit of both. And I also think it depends on the part of the culture you're coming from. If I find, at least in the African community, if I've been in the US for 20 years, a lot of the people that have been in the US as long as I am are slightly more open-minded, so their kids kind of sort of figuring it out. But if the person is 35, but he just came to the US 6 years ago, they are slightly more stringent. You know what I mean? Like they are still, you gotta do what I tell you to do. Whereas, you know, I'm like, look, this is what you should be doing, but it looks like you want to learn something, go for it. I'll be here. And that they feel, they come back, and I'm like, okay, great. So I think it's a little bit of both. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I got one last question.
Go ahead. Mike.
Hello? Okay, I'm back. Throughout your journey, did you ever feel like you were failing?
Mm-hmm.
Like you felt like you hit a low point where everything you thought you wanted to be just wasn't like coming together?
Yeah, I did. When I got my first job as a social worker, it was $38,000. I was like, see, this is what they were talking about. This is what they're talking about. What am I supposed to do with this? You know, like you go to school for 4 years and you graduate with $38,000. It's appalling.
So how did you get over that, like, that mental hump?
Went to 2 more years of school. There is that mental piece there for me, though, where I felt very defeated. I wouldn't tell anybody what I do. I became very introverted. Generally speaking, I'm the person that goes to the party and everybody's laughing the entire time. Like, I always have some shit to say, I always dance, it's just, I can be bubbly. And I think that was also about the same time that for the first time, I addressed my own mental health challenges. Because even though I've been in the field and I've been working in the field and I'm very well aware now of what mental health is, I didn't think it applied to me. I thought I was good. Oh, I wasn't. I wasn't. When I got that letter from Worcester County, and it was 38,000. I was like, what, the entire? How? I said, okay, I'll just do 2 years and then they will increase it. But then there was a hiring, like a pay freeze, and at the time we already had a house. I was like, what is this? And then of course, instead of me just going back to school and doing what I needed to do, I started shutting everybody out. I stopped hanging out. I stopped picking up calls. I just needed to be by myself. And I'm glad that I did, because it gave me a reason to think about what I am doing with myself, and it reminded me of why I got in the field in the first place. And that very first instructor that said, if you're in this for the money, you're in the wrong field. And I'm like, maybe she was right. But eventually, that took me about 6 months. I would say that I was in a hole for about 6 months. Just nothing. And it was easy for me to do because I was on mission work, and most of my friends had graduated and they are across the bag. So it's not like anybody was popping up in my house. It was easy for me to just. It was a lot of crying, and I generally don't cry. It was a lot of, I wish I knew. I wish I listened. So all the voices of the uncles that suggested pharmacy back front and center. I even considered going back to get my degree in pharmacy, going back to pharmacy school in the Caribbean. I considered re-enrolling, because now I had a 4-year degree in nursing. But I suppose I was like, okay, let me do a little bit of the research. Education is gold. Not education as in college, but learning information. And so I went online, and when I typed in social work, like, they give you 30,000 to 150,000. And I'm like, who are these people? What are they doing? And then I did a little bit digging, and I realized that, okay, I just need to get my license, and then I'm good. But then you get the license, and it becomes a little tricky because you have to do 2 years. Social work seems very simple, but when you had it all up, there's a lot of college, and a lot of tests, and a lot of experience, a lot of waiting. It's like step. It's not like nursing that you graduate nursing, get your license, you go. That's it. With social work, it's step by step. So it's more painstaking and it's more persistent. And eventually I realized that what I truly want to be doing is where the money is in social work. But I also don't want to provide therapy for the people for the rest of my life. I think that in about 10, 15 years, I'll find that incredibly boring because I know how I am set up. I also know that during the time that you were asking, I found out that personally, I have a disorder myself. I have adult ADHD, but people hear ADHD and they think you're jumping off the wall. No, for a lot of black immigrant women specifically, it's all in the brain. Your brain don't stop. You're always thinking about the next thing. You're always thinking. And that's fine, but you can't filter it. You think about so much stuff, you can't do anything. And then that becomes a problem. And for me, that's pretty much it. I had a whole book of ideas, but nothing was happening. Nothing. Until I said, okay, there is a problem. I need a little help, because I need to filter all of this. And I figured I can't help anybody if I've got my own stuff going on as well. So yes, you will feel defeated. And I kind of alluded earlier when I said you fail, but then you just keep going and figure out something else.
I got one last question.
Go ahead, man.
How do you go about like self-evaluation? Because I feel like in the Haitian community, men especially have a hard time understanding or evaluating themselves to say, hey, maybe I need to like step back and ask myself, am I okay mentally? Because we're taught to be super macho. Well, I guess that's in African cultures too. Men are meant to be like super macho and like take the emotional side out of it. But so how should somebody go? Well, I'm not going to say men, generally human, how do you go about self-evaluation and say, hey, who am I? You know, like mentally, how do you go about self-evaluating that?
I think a man does it differently than a woman by default. And while I think a woman can always do what a man can do a little better, what you're talking about? I still think men generally have the hardest time checking themselves. I think that's what you mean by self-evaluation. Men don't tend to check in, because I do see men too, quite a few actually. But overall, there is that hyper-masculinity that is built into the fabric of the society. You said earlier, men are expected to take emotions out of it. That right there is the problem. Because the last time I checked, you have emotions, man. Like, actually, your emotions are worse. See, if women are feeling some things, you know. We don't even have to say. Some women like me, I will tell you what I'm feeling if you're pissing me off. If I'm happy with you, I'll tell you to like, I'll say both. Men, they have a problem, they don't say shit. And I'm like, I can't read mine.
That's another time back there.
I can't read mine. And then you can't sleep at night, or the guy is acting out, and then now they're smoking weed, and you're like, what is wrong with this guy? As a man, if you're here today, please listen. You are not immune to emotions. Actually, you have them, but you have been taught just naturally that you're supposed to regress them. So now it comes out as anger, it comes out as trash talk, it comes out as not talking at all. I'm sure everybody here knows an African or Asian guy that doesn't say anything. They just look. And you're like, I know you think, but you're not saying anything. Is your eye supposed to tell me something? Say something. If you're mad at me, say something. Personally, when you self-evaluate as a guy, I'm talking specifically to men right now, you have to remember that, one, you're human. You're human, you have emotions, and feel what you need to feel. Good grief, you're in your house, shut your door, and cry if you have to. By all means, make sure you wipe it up before you open that door, but do it. Nobody hears. Nobody can see you in the bathroom when you turn on that fan. It's loud enough, you can holler. Take a drive and go cry on 13. Nobody cries. Nobody hears. But you cannot act like those emotions don't exist. Because if you do, it comes out as a behavior. And now you are acting out. That's why you see a 30-year-old guy acting a fool, a complete fool, and you're like, why are you doing this? You're married, or you have a child, but you don't take care of them. You talk to your girlfriend any kind of way, or you can't even have a girlfriend at all. You can't hold one because you don't know how to act. You spend all your money on gambling, or you have alcohol in your trunk, just little stupid stuff. But it's not because the guy is immature. It's what we say, well, it's just he has some growing up to do. No. A 24-year-old guy should know that if you drink and you drive, it's going to get you a DUI. And that's going to cause you a lot of problems in the future. The correlation is direct. It's not confusing. But yet it doesn't. And you're like, oh, it was a mistake. It's not a mistake. That guy is not emotionally intelligent. And that is a problem that needs to be addressed right now. So, to answer your question, if you're a guy, you need to self-evaluate, but it's easy for you to do, because if you find yourself doing dumb stuff, where's the problem? And dumb stuff for guys is not like clubbing or anything like that. You can go to the club and not drink. That's the choice. You want to go to the club and you just want the barista to mix your little cranberry juice. What you know about the cranberry? No. That's fine. Nobody's gonna know. Nobody's gonna know what's in that cup, because you know you gotta go back home to your wife and you have to babysit. Or you know you gotta work tomorrow at 10 in the morning, but the boys want you to party. Go on out. Just don't get drunk. That is the difference between an emotionally intelligent guy and one that is not. Self-evaluation is the most difficult thing to do because men are generally programmed that they're perfect, but they're not. When they screw up or when they have a mental health breakdown, it almost certainly leads to them being hospitalized, first of all. And most suicides are carried out by men because they don't play around. I'm going to get really dark right here, so I might trigger some people. Women want to hurt themselves, a little cut here, a little cut there. Men want to do it, they boom. It's done, it's done. Because they bottle it up. When I see somebody hurting themselves, and cutting or things like that, that's a cry for help. Because that is going to heal, and I can help you. But when you shoot yourself, I can't fix that. You're gone now. And men, generally, the highest suicide rate in the U.S. is that of men, specifically white male. But that's because we don't get statistics in our community. I know the drill. But men do that because they can't feel what they need to feel, and it ends badly all the time. Okay, that's
to piggy off his question. So, like, let's say you Thank you. So, like, how if you're as a female, how can you support a male counterpart that you observe that to? So whether it be a brother, a cousin, husband, boyfriend, and you notice that there are things that they might be dealing with or going through, and they're just keeping all that bottled in. How can you be a support and not come off as annoying?
Well, and I think that annoying piece is a factor because there's that fine line between I'm going to support you with whatever to you're annoying. You get on my nerves, leave me alone. And the way that you can support as a female specifically is with information. You provide them with information because half of the time men are not doing that because they're trying to be an ass. They're doing that because they don't know better. They're incredibly there's that disconnect, there's a level of dissociation between the reality of what's in front of them and what they're supposed to be doing. If you're a female and you're trying to support a man in your life, doesn't matter what their position is, hand them with information. I do passive-aggressive stuff like sending YouTube videos. I find a TikTok that talks about them, you getting it. I find a meme, you getting it.
Come on now.
Or I'm sending it. And then eventually, I am going to be annoying because we are going to have that conversation. Like, listen, clearly there is something wrong with you, but it's more than talking. I will be the person who will go on Psychology Today and read all the profiles and take screenshots of the one, because I know the person, right? It's somebody you generally know. You know who they are, you know what they're struggling with. I will do the research for them. I will do everything but making that call because you cannot make somebody get help. They have to take that last step. I'll give you information. I'll send you screenshot. Like, I read all this profile. I think you guys are, you should call them. Nah, I don't need it. Yes, you do. 3 months later or 2 weeks later, you come to me with the same situation. Or I see you doing the same thing that I think is dangerous. I think, you need help for. Did you call the numbers on the screenshot? Now you're getting annoyed, right? But I think it will escalate based on your level of closeness with that person. If it's a cousin that you only see at family events or at church every other Sunday or whatever, you can only be so annoying. You give them information and you check in on them, that's it. But if it's somebody closer, like a brother, that you kind of have to deal with, that is more, you are more emotionally connected to that person, or a boyfriend, or a spouse, you are going to be annoying because you're telling someone what they don't want to hear. By default. Doesn't matter how you do it. You are going to be annoying. But can you be annoying from a place of love and care? And people can tell the difference. If you've just been annoying because you're being an ass, people can pick that up, like you're judging them. But if you're annoying from a place of love, like, listen, I know you're struggling, I know you don't want to believe it. We can even go to your first appointment together. You want to go talk to the pastor? We can go together. Like, it doesn't matter. It's not always about talking to a counselor. It's always about talking to someone, anyone, And when I say anyone, I truly mean it. It could be that friend that you know is bad news, but that's the one person your brother is going to talk to. But they're talking. As long as they're talking, they are less likely going to hurt themselves. They may not get better, but they're not going to die. And that's just enough timeline there. Give them information. Be persistent, but from a place of love. Eventually, though, you have to know what your limit is, ladies. You can only do so much before it becomes exhausting for you. Do the best that you can, but you can't make people get help. That's one thing I find. If I get a call right now, somebody says, oh, I'm calling because my brother, I'm like, oh, man. Sure, yeah. Do me a favor. Yes, what is it? Can you have your brother give me a call? I would really love to talk to him. I just wanted to schedule an appointment for... Nah, man. You can't schedule an appointment for your brother. Your brother needs to call and talk to me and schedule that appointment. I never get those calls back. I just don't. One time my husband girl accidentally scheduled those kind of appointments. They didn't give it. Because they're not ready. So as a female, or as a person, it could even be a guy to a guy. You see that, the guy back there is struggling. You can only tell them so much. At some point, you're going to have to make a decision to mind your business. Because they have all the information that you can possibly provide, aside from taking them there. That's it. Talk, be persistent from a place of love, and at the end of the day, know what your own limit is and stay there. Otherwise, then you are going to find yourself over somebody else's problem. It's not your problem. Even if it's a spouse or a brother or a boyfriend, at the end of the day, it is not your problem. They are the one going through it. You just have to decide what you want to do about it. If they won't listen, what do you want to do? I've done it before to family members. I'm telling you, you need help. You need Jesus and a counselor. That's what you need. You don't want to listen. Don't call me. And I'm a little blunt. Eventually, I'll tell you, stop calling me. Because you're calling me about the same gravity problem. A problem you're not willing to have. I cannot help you with those. When you're ready to have this problem, then we can talk. Oh, you're so mean. Is it because every time you talk to me about what's making you sad, it's making me sad. I can't have that. I can only take that for a few months and I'm like, nah, man. When you need me, I will be here. But from a position of love. Does that make sense? It's tough, but you have to protect yourself too in the middle of all of that, especially with females. Otherwise, we get caught up in other people's problems. And they don't even think it's a problem. So now you are out here crying over somebody that doesn't care. You know? All right.
Any more questions?
From the younger folks too. Like, you put us on the spot.
Any questions?
She's thinking. The lady in green. Give her the mic. She has a question.
I think Josh wants to say something.
Josh said he has a question.
Sure.
Alright, so I know I talk about.
For the mic.
Are they recording this?
Yes.
So just to piggyback off of my boy Willie's question. So the self-evaluations for males, okay, we talked about that. So for females, I know a lot of females also like to talk about their emotions, or they express it in like weird ways. Okay, we can talk about it with females as and their friends and as their significant others. Because females are just very strange on how they like do everything.
Because you're supposed to be able to make it up.
Yeah, so I mean I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
No, it's not just you. In reality, we wear our emotions like gloves, even if we don't think we do.
Talk to me.
I'm just being honest.
What did he say? He's talking about his sister, his girlfriend.
He put a job. Damn.
What did he say about it?
I said it's blunt. Like I like we blunt. You know.
Okay. Well, because generally speaking, generally speaking, we females, it's just trying to be in there. It wants to answer the question, But generally speaking, when it comes to self-evaluation with females specifically, it's tricky. And this is where I'm going to be slightly biased. Don't catch me on the 17th of the month. I would be a thorough, no. Because that's the day before my monthly honey, and it's not a good day. Like some days I take off for that day because I can't be bothered. That's how it can be sometimes. And or I schedule particular clients for that day because I know they can deal with my roughness a little bit. Just because I know myself. So if we're being honest, females are a little bit, I feel bad for men sometimes because you can't really.
Say it louder. I don't think I heard you.
Yes, you did. I do, because you don't really know what you're getting most of the time. Like, you know what you're getting sometimes. But most of the time, it depends on my estrogen levels, and some months are different from another month. All females has a personality that is clear. But there are certain situations where, as a female, we've all done it here. Most adult female here can tell you they've caught themselves like, girl, you doing just cool off.
So are we wrong for matching that energy? Like they're doing the most. So what, as a male, like
why would you match that energy? Somebody's got to be hot and somebody be cold.
Yes.
You can't be going hot at the same time.
Exactly.
Imagine how you feel if I'm consistently matching your masculine energy. I can't do that. The house is just going to be hot all the time.
All that time.
Somebody's got to cool off. And if I'm being very blunt, in my household, it's not me. My husband is real chill. People that know him knows that he's. I would be hot and just look at me like. When he shakes his head, I already know I'm doing the most. He doesn't even have to speak because I know at that point I'm a little off. When it comes to self-evaluation, women, by default, we're emotionally intelligent. We need to grow further into it the older we get. How old were you again? 13? 16?
Melina. Oh, me.
Yes.
Oh, I thought you were
12. No, I'm talking about. This 12-year-old has more emotional intelligence than a 17-year-old boy. By default.
By default.
By default. Because she is more in tune with her body because she didn't have a choice. The body is just going to educate her about what needs to happen every month, and it changes her mood. The mood swings. A guy grows into that puberty and the testosterone is raging, but they're stuck in that phallic state. They're thinking with their penis. It's not the whole body. So it just takes a little bit longer. Did you hear what he said? I just got it got that. Eventually, if everybody catches up, if everything goes well, by the time they're both 21, they should be around the same place. But in the younger ages like this, it takes time. If you're a grown woman, I always say, and I work a lot with females, your husband cannot read your mind. You can wear it like a glove. But just because you said it 3 weeks ago doesn't mean he remember. He don't remember because it's not important to him. So when it comes to self-evaluation, you should be able to tell if you're doing the most. If you cannot tell that you're being extra, then we have a problem. And the problem is that you're not mindful enough to know when you need to slow down a little bit. And also, if you have a female that is very introverted, doesn't talk much, pretty, quiet, level-headed, there's nothing wrong with that. But there's always that fine line between I'm quiet, I won't talk much, but then you allow everybody to talk just anyhow to you. You know what I'm saying? Even though you're introverted, nobody should be able to disrespect you just because you're not loud enough. The tone of your voice should not be the determination of if you're going to get respect or not. When somebody's quiet and they walk into a room, they say, hey, how are you? And they have a seat, nice and cool. They're fine, they're just introverted, they don't. But then somebody else comes into the room and they're like, hey, and they suck up all the energy in the room, and then somebody walks up to you and disrespects you. That's wrong. There is enough in there as a female to speak up for yourself, even if you're introverted. As you're finding your voice, you should get comfortable speaking up because it is important. It is not optional. And men, or people generally, can't read your mind. Say it. You are going to piss somebody off. You're always going to make somebody angry in life. Just do it from a position of strength. Don't do it on purpose. They'll get over it. And don't apologize if you don't have to. Women, we do it all the time. Okay, I'm sorry. Why? What are you sorry for? Why are you sorry? Even men do it sometimes. Just to make the peace, I'll apologize and keep it going. Why? The person is just going to repeat the same thing and then expect an apology when you never meant it to start with. It's complicated.
Okay, you know what, and I feel like you answered my question to the best. I have one more question. Go ahead, so excuse me. All right, so my second question is like with these females nowadays, like
these females. See, you already threw me off, but okay.
We're gonna talk about these women nowadays, like with their self-esteem. Like I feel like a lot of women these days. I'm watching. I work in a hospital with a whole bunch of women, women. And it's just like they have so much potential. They're nurses, but they just really don't have any self-esteem. Like they really don't value themselves, and it's really sad. I'm like looking on social media, all these females, all they like, I'm not. Oh, all these women are like talking about like, oh, I'm not. I'm more than a piece of flesh, or more than a booty call. But like then they're just posting pictures that like, you know, all that sort of showing. I'm like, hold on, like you trying to get wife, but like. You acting like, okay, she said it right though. I heard. You know what I mean? So it's just like, how can we,
as men?
I don't know if as men, is that a men's
society.
problem? Society, okay, yeah. Because I don't feel like men can fix that problem. It's a problem.
Not your problem to
fix. Never mind.
Not your booty though.
But how could we fix that not as women, but like for women, how could we fix that problem with their self-esteem? Because it's just like, I think it's getting ridiculous. Like a lot of girls are coming into hospital now, like for suicide and all these things like that, and it's actually becoming a real problem. So we're just like, at this point, how can we fix that problem? For females, you know, and then we talk about males later.
You know, I can't help that. I'm gonna drag you to it by default. But I think, generally speaking, remember how I said earlier that men are raised from the jump, since they are inside the tummy, to be hyper-masculine and be confident and be a little bit persistent. It's just out. See a son crying, stop crying, you're a boy. You see a girl crying, come here, what's wrong now? You know, it's just different. It's just the way that the society sees that. The only problem with that is, kind of stays with us until adulthood, you know. It stays. When you see a woman as an object, it takes a strong woman to not perceive herself the same. So you want to wife up, but you're barely close on social media. Don't get me wrong, I'm not judging this thing. You're still gonna find a husband or whatever.
They go out like that too, and they're just like, what's going on? What kind of message are you saying to the people?
You know, it's confusing, but that's where men come in, though. I want you. Like, we do this for something.
Listen on me.
That's where men come in. Where I'm from, growing up, my mom made sure we always wear jeans. She would never buy us a skirt, which was backwards. Because if you were a girl growing up back then, you should be wearing skirts, you know, be a modest Nigerian girl. Oh no, my mom is a rebel. She puts us in jeans. And the reason is that, well, if somebody's trying to rape you, you're in jeans. Before they get to it, you will yell, somebody else will hear you. If it's a skirt, it's just and it's done. That is the most backward reasoning. But it makes sense. because that was the community, that was the society, that was the country that we lived in. You see your 12 years old wearing a modest short skirt. It's not like you're wearing half of your butt is out. Just a modest short skirt and maybe a spaghetti top, you know.
Spaghetti top.
Girls know what I'm talking about. Okay, you know, you're wearing that and you have a little bag and you're going out. What is it with men? What is it about that person that is more attractive than the one that is wearing a pants and a blazer? It's the same thing under all of that.
Pants and a blazer.
Give me some jeans. So honestly, I feel like men, they think with their head, like you said, but not the one. Huh?
Why should we have to be responsible for that though?
Oh.
Wait, hold on. What? Come on. Because you know, okay, so like by default, like you said,
Biology.
like you said, males are already like, they are visual creatures, I guess you could say. So obviously,
I don't know size, man.
no, they're visual creatures. So obviously, when a girl's wearing a spaghetti top and her shorts all the way up to her, I would say, how you say it?
Knee length?
Past your knees, bro.
Yeah, past your knees. I was about to say, yeah.
Oh, wait, past my knees. I like it. I know you have some. Okay, past my knees.
I know what I'm saying, past your knees, all the way up, and then just like, I'm like, come on. Like, obviously, even the girls are gonna look. They're gonna be like, dang.
I think that behavior is okay when you're 14, 17, maybe even 18. But the moment you get older enough, emotional intelligence, I can see how visual is the first thought for males. But there's a need to switch. That's a whole human, not some booty. Like, you can think that, but you don't have to act it. That's where we females are different. Do you think we don't see males? And I'm looking at your pants and I'm like,
With the prints, with the
yes, I can see it. You need to see your husband's feel right. It's like, I can see it. It's the first thing. I look at your face, and I look at that, and I look at your shoes, and then I can continue. It's a natural process for us too, but the difference is most females don't go trying to take your pants off, you know. We still try to be, formal about it. The problem is, yes, women have that. A lot of women show their low self-esteem in very many different ways. Some females try to overcompensate for it. Males do it too. They know they're not all that, but they do the absolute most, and you're like,
chill out.
Just chill. Like, I'm not that into it. It's not that deep. But then you see females too, beautiful, gorgeous. And you're like, I'm like, why are you doing all that?
I feel like you came from saying, like, I feel like you said ugly men, they'd be like, they're not all that. But you see beautiful women.
because most of the time when a woman is not as attractive, and attraction is different for everybody.
Beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
When a woman is not as attractive in their perception, we tend to act accordingly sometimes. But most of the time, when you see someone that is doing the most as a female, I can guarantee you they're not even ugly. They are beautiful. I'm not lying. They are attractive. They have a good character. They are nice people. But because they don't perceive themselves that way, they do the most. And you're like, why are you doing all this? All of this is not necessary. I didn't say all of that.
She said ugly men do the most, beautiful women do the most.
In other words, people do the most.
It is.
That's the bottom line. So perception. Perception is everything. Sir, with the baby,
Yes.
when you see women and you see on social media how their self-esteem seems to be in the trash, in your perception, please know that every woman expresses herself the same. And I think social media can be very, very skewed. You know, a lot of people live a whole lot of fake life on there. And even the things they say on there, they don't believe it. You know? And it gets a little tricky. But if you have a woman in front of you, like real life that you know, that you interact with, and you just see that they're timid, or you see some low self-esteem, maybe they wear too much makeup, or maybe they do nothing to themselves, then you just run into them at the store and you're like, next time, you know, that kind of situation, there's always that disconnect. Like I said earlier, we're talking with men. It's the same thing. If you have a cousin or a niece that you think is a little off, as the cousin, it becomes your responsibility to say, Malena, sit down. Let's have a conversation, girl. I'm gone. What's going on? Maybe it's a boyfriend situation, but she can't talk to her brother about it because her brother is, you know, her brother. But it becomes your responsibility to catch them young and have those very, very pointed conversations with young girls. You're the president of the girls group, yes?
You're in charge.
You're in charge.
Merlin.
It's not only about gathering females to talk to young girls. Most importantly, they need to hear from young men. Because that's the people they're going to be messing with. And they need to know how they think. We know how we think. We talk about how we think all the time. That's the thing about women. We talk. Men, their brothers are not going to talk to them. So you need to bring people in that will tell them, like, listen, this is the game. Let's talk about it. So that you know. You see what I'm saying? It goes a long way, educating and catching them from young. So we don't have a 24-year-old or a 35-year-old who doesn't have a relationship, but just the way she acts, you're like, yeah, I know why. God bless you. God bless you. It gets a little tricky, and it becomes our job as older folks to educate them so that they're ready for this. Because there's no manual for adulting. You just freestyle it and see what happens. Sir? Yes. Ladies first.
Ladies first.
Okay, I kind of wanted to ask a question along the lines of this. I guess with men, since we're just... I just don't understand the disconnect when, like I was saying, that a man might see a girl walking down the street or walking somewhere, like wearing a little bit of nothing, or like
a little bit of nothing.
A little bit of nothing.
But then it's like men are attracted to them, right? And then let's say they start dating or whatever it may be, and then they're like, why are you dressing like this?
That's how you met me, though.
Exactly. So it's like, why do men expect women to change? Like, if that's how you met me, or if like you met me in a bar at 1 a.m., like, why would you be mad if you, like, you know, if I'm going out at 1 a.m. every day, it's like, why are you doing this? But it's like, that's the way you met me. You met me when I wasn't wearing anything, but then I continue to not wear anything. Not saying this is me. I'm just saying. That's how you found me, and then I continue to act the same way, and now you're like, but why are you doing this? But that's how you see me, and it was good then, but why is it a problem now?
Because all of a sudden, no sir, no sir.
Listen. Question.
Wait a minute.
You can see we have an issue here.
Yes, clearly. Because all of a sudden, now that you are in a relationship, they may always perceive that whatever females do, we're doing it for them. So now that you're in a relationship and she met you naked, you know, now that we're together, you should dress up. Honey, I wasn't dressing like that for you. You just caught me like that. I'm giving you, that's what I want to do.
Hold on. Okay, I love how you said that right there. So I understand that, but I feel like there's levels to it, right? So just like a kid, when they're 1 year old, it's cool for them to walk around in a diaper. But when they become older, toddlers, it's not cool for a grown man to be walking around in a diaper because there's levels, right? There's stages in a relationship. So obviously the dating phase. Not the dating phase, so there's like, obviously you're single. So obviously you're trying to attract the...
No, but that's right there in the perception.
No. That's dangerous.
Listen, like for real, we dress up for ourselves.
So you try to...
And I'm looking at like, yo, now you look good right now. I don't need a man. I don't need my husband to be like, babe, you look good. I see myself and I'm like, yo, I turn around and be like, yeah, I'm feeling good. thing for females. Even if they don't have a significant other, they dress for themselves to make themselves feel good. They put something on and they feel good.
Nanette, he was going through the stages of where he becomes in a I want to hear it. This is a good stage. I want to make sure this girl right here hears
this is nature.
Stages.
This is straight biology.
Whoa. Biology. Let's stick with nature.
So obviously, as you're single, you trying to attract the most beautiful.
Even if you don't attract.
You're trying to attract a beautiful woman, right? Correct.
Yes. Oh,
that's why you dress. Like, so you wear obviously, but I'm trying to give you a nice girl. So you can wear something nice. You know what I'm saying? Something to show off your attributes or whatever. But I know females, just to go for Nana's question, I just got to piggyback off of that. Girls do not go in the mirror and be like, damn, my butt look fat. I wonder if Melon's going to be like, yo, your butt look fat and that. You know what I'm saying? You know, she's doing that so, a guy can be like, okay, like, now I got a little butt. Like, oh, snap, like, what's going on over there? You know what I'm saying? So, okay, back to the nature thing. So, so obviously when you're single, you try to attract to get the beautiful woman, right? And then as you get in a relationship, I feel like things should change, because just like how girls be like, oh, you got me like this. I mean, like, I was talking to 3 other girls, and why I gotta stop talking to those 3 other girls? I mean, yeah, we're dating.
Whoa.
But I was doing that before you, right? Hold on. I was doing that before you. You just happened to catch me on a good day. You know what I mean? You just happened to catch me on a good day. But I gotta drop.
Josh, keep number 1 on speed dial when you're in the car.
I got what he's saying.
Set himself up.
I understand.
I got what he's saying.
Your brother.
All he's saying is like, before you guys started talking, you dress a certain way. Yeah. But I feel like now you are in a relationship. You know what I mean?
Committed.
It's committed. So it's not like your attention is everywhere. You know what I mean?
Why did you assume that my attention was everywhere?
It's like this, right? He met you in a club, right?
Sure.
Now, you guys are in a relationship, and you don't go to the club the same way no more. You don't go with the same. I don't think you would go with the same mindset. Because think about it. If you were in the club and I met you and I got your attention, some other guys are gonna be looking for your attention as well. So for that reason, if you dress the same way, there's a good chance.
Oh, let it finish. I like this.
The whole the outfit to the mindset thing, that's cap. Because let's be honest, you go to the club,
Exactly.
60 guys is gonna look at you. 60, right? Now, if you're in a relationship, you gotta dress accordingly. You can't go to the club and show like half of your titties no more. Simply because I feel like it's just, I'm not gonna say it's not respectable, because women, you dress how you want, or your confidence or whatever. But I feel like as a relationship, respect is a big thing. If a guy don't feel comfortable with the way you dress, I feel like if he makes his feelings known and it's not being considered, is that show respect for him?
That's your question? Yeah. Okay. I just want to make sure that we arrive at the question.
Can I say something before you answer?
Please do.
No. Can I hold the mic? Let me hold the mic.
Just like females are insecure, men are insecure as well. Hold on. Listen. I'm a married woman, right? My husband's right here, so if I'm saying anything that's not true, we can say. And I'd be like, yo, this might be a little too short. I'd be like, babe, what you think? And you know what his answer is like? He said, what you think? And I said, I think I look good, and you look good. Because he's secured. He's secured. He's not going like, babe, you married. What you wearing that for? He don't say that. No, he's secure, brother. Come on now.
He's married. He's married.
I said he was always like that.
But nobody thinks I'm married.
Married. With a house.
With a house, okay.
In a relationship, she can just say like, all right, I'll see you later.
See you later.
So to answer your question, ultimately, there are 2 different things going on here. There is definitely that issue of security that they rightfully pointed out. But wait a minute, I also understand the fact that you said, but they're married and this and that, but they didn't marry Jack.
Nanai, girl, Nanai.
Oh, sorry, thank you for correcting me, Nanai. Didn't marry Jack. because, after they got married, he started getting secure. No, it must have always kind of sort of been like that.
Maybe not.
Most always, you see what I'm saying? So that was the attraction for her. Meanwhile, though, sir, what you were saying earlier about that look mindset situation, ultimately it comes down to that control factor.
All right, where's the mic at? I can get something.
When you assume that you are in a committed relationship now, and as such, a lady should dress a different way, then you are assuming that she cannot be trusted. Because if she dresses the same exact way that she met you, and she goes to the club, you're right, 60 guys are going to be looking at her because she's cute.
Right.
But you, sir, should be confident in the reality that she is not ever going to look at it.
So that's the same thing as throw me in it's the same thing as throw me in a strip club. Like, oh God, just don't look at any girls because you're married. I'm like,
whoever tells you that as a female doesn't know what they're doing either, because it goes both ways. I have no problems with my men. Well, you want to go to a strip club and goodbye? I see you later, because guess what? I'm going to have a stripper come too. No problem. Like,
no problem.
Oh, nah, baby.
How is that a problem?
It's called not being insecure, bro.
Ultimately, I think that we need to get out of that. We need to get out of that imbalance. No, it's a gender imbalance. You have expectations of females that are not realistic. You think they are looking a certain way because of you. And I can tell you a lot of females don't do that. Most females just kind of wear whatever they want to wear. But I'm also not naive. A lot of females dress specifically to get attention. And that there's nothing, I'm not judging. If you see a female that dresses a certain way, go for it. But if you're if you're not married here, if you want to have a successful relationship, you have to allow individuality for each person. So for example, I don't like my hair long. Every few years I should be bald. I never ask my husband his opinion, because it is not his business what I want to do with my hair, and it should not be. I know for a fact he doesn't like it when I cut my hair, but that's not going to change my mind, because every 5 years or so I should be bald. I start over. It's my thing. That's what I do, and that's what I've been doing before we met 15 years ago. So it makes no difference. It's what I'm going to do. But ultimately, the clothing is different from hair. But you have to understand that if you're going to have a successful relationship, you have to let your woman be the kind of woman she's comfortable with being. Not the kind of woman you want her to be. It's not going to work. What you get is what you get. If that's what attracts you, that's her character. It doesn't matter from the personality to her clothes to her makeup. That's how she's going to look. Don't try to change her, you will fail. It will not work. So if you meet a girl at a club and you like what she's wearing, make sure you're going to like it 5 years from now. I also know that generally speaking, as people get older, style changes naturally, okay? It does. The things you used to wear before, you don't wear it anymore, but allow it to be a natural progression, not forced. Either you tell her or not, eventually she's going to evolve. Just let her do it by herself.
Oh my God.
Wait, can I say one last thing?
Sure.
Okay, and I just want to say, because I hate, I just want to say, like, you know, the way, it's just YouTube, really, it's just YouTube. Like, you wearing the short shorts and the crop tops and all this stuff. Oh, men are going to be looking at you, blah, blah, blah. All women in here are beautiful, so I just want you to know, I feel like if I'm wearing a t-shirt and these mom jeans, I want you to know that men still, men will still say, because she's
talking to you, better
I could be wearing a tracksuit of the baggiest hoodie. It doesn't make a difference. You're saying just because I'm wearing this shirt. That's what bothers me, because I feel like you're saying that I'm not attractive. Like you're saying it's what I'm wearing. It's the clothes. Like you're saying that's because I'm wearing this tank top and these shorts. That means that she's attractive, but you can't just look at my face and see that. But I hate that.
It's the truth.
I'm telling you. It doesn't matter what clothes you wear.
And a dude still come to me and be like, hey, what's going on?
What are you doing?
And I just be like, Bye.
Exactly. But I think it goes back to the point you were saying about security. If you feel like if I'm just wearing this tank top and that's going to attract men to me and that's when I need to start to repel, no. Whatever I'm wearing, when I'm out without my boyfriend, I'm still going to turn them down. It doesn't matter what I'm wearing.
Because they talk about the tracksuit. I ain't never seen it not one day in my life. They wear a girl in a tracksuit. I've never seen a tracksuit in my life. I've never seen a girl wear a tracksuit.
Okay, I'm being dramatic with tracksuit.
Because they're like, I'm ready to keep it. I've never seen a girl wear a tracksuit.
I think what she means is that the girl is covered up.
That's what I'm saying.
Right. What are you wearing?
Oh, wow. No. I think ultimately, I get your point. There is that objectifying factor always when it comes to female. And I think as females, it is important for us to be aware of that. We know what we do. Depending on where we're going to wear certain things. Let me give you a case of point. I'm coming here today. The first blazer I picked with this pants was a little shorter. And then I remembered I'm going to a church. Let me grab this oversized blazer that covers my butt a little bit. I didn't have to do that. But I am going to a church. And I don't know who's going to be here. And I'm not trying to disrespect the house of God. So I picked an oversized blazer that comes a little bit further than my bum. So a little bit is covered. Nobody taught me that. That's something you just grow into. If I was going to a conference at the Ritz, I will not be dressing like this. It's just not how it works. So we females, we do use our clothes to make statements.
Thank you. There we go.
But that statement is not always to get your attention. Like the statement I made today wasn't for your attention. It was for my dignity. Let me cover my bum because of God and keep it moving. See what I'm saying? Now, if I choose to wear a booty short, that's a choice. And it's going to get your attention, but that doesn't mean that's my intention.
But you know it's going to get our attention.
So because of that, I choose.
Just to be modest?
She said to be
How do you know that?
Did you not hear what she said?
That's what I said.
That's a selective hearing. Selective hearing. I have a question.
Okay, talk to
us.
Hey,
he has a question. Put the mic on, man.
Okay.
He got a question.
Hold on.
Let me ask you a question, because you made a very important statement in the middle of that a few seconds ago. You said, but you have to be modest. What is the definition of that? Okay. What do you mean? Describe to me what you consider modest.
I got the startup kit. So, face covering?
No, but a more serious note.
Oh, okay.
Because that is definitely a joke.
But no, so on a serious note, okay, obviously, like you said, it depends on where you're going. So it just depends. So obviously, if you're going to the beach, it'd be different than going to the beach and going to class or something like that.
Of course.
So just being modest as a female and male is something that's not too over-revealing, like not making somebody want to lust.
What has to show to be over-revealing?
So I feel like the general rule is if you can go to church with it, it's usually okay. You know what I'm saying? So.
Have you been to some churches though? Like, no, I'm just curious because I think you just gave me your definition. So let me ask Jack. Jack, what is your definition of modesty? Do you even have a definition for that?
No, I believe like everybody should be themselves no matter what, church or not.
Good. What about you, sir? What about you? What's your definition of modesty?
My definition of modest?
Yeah.
I feel like dressing respectably.
What does that mean?
I feel like if you're like specific, I'm gonna piggyback what he said.
Yes, that's
like I haven't been to too many churches, and I've been to enough churches to understand that you're not gonna go to church with a tank top on. I'm not gonna say everybody won't, because I know there's that outlier that's gonna do it. But I feel like if you know you're going to a certain function, like a restaurant that requires like a dress shirt. If you know that restaurant requires a dress shirt, you're gonna wear a dress shirt. But if you're gonna go to like a respectable place, I feel like knowing what the place is, you will dress accordingly.
So that means the club outfit is appropriate for the club then, though, right?
The club outfit?
Yeah.
I feel like if you know you're going to the club and you're single,
Okay, so we have a question right there. Okay, gotcha. I understand. What about you? First, how old are you? Okay, good. So what?
12.
What about? What do you have in definition of modest when you look at women?
Okay, Kenny, talk to him, man.
Let him speak.
Go ahead.
I'm neutral. If you're in a relationship, you gotta dress accordingly.
What does that mean? What is the definition of dressing accordingly?
According to what?
According to yeah,
right.
To the man.
According to the man. This is good. That way y'all know what you're working with. This is good. According to the let him finish. Did you know he was thinking that until I asked the question? No. Exactly.
Wait, hold on.
Continue. According to the man.
Y'all might make this a whole sexist thing right here.
No. I like to know what people are thinking. Like I said before, we can't read minds. When people speak, you know where they're at with stuff. Continue.
Yeah, according to the man, to prevent jealousy.
What if a lady is not in a relationship though? You're just walking out and you saw a lady. You don't even know anything about that. Right.
I mean, you her, look at her up and down.
Keep it moving. Yeah. All right, sir. What about you back there? I know you had a question, but what is your definition of modest?
I mean, my definition of modest is like humbleness and stuff. That's my definition.
Humbleness, you said?
Humbleness?
What? Okay.
But nah. To me, I don't have a problem about the way women go out. Like
when you're in a relationship.
Yes.
Really?
So she can wear whatever she wants.
Why not?
So she can wear.
Let it speak the same way I said let it speak.
If I can wear whatever I want, why can't she wear whatever she
wants?
Exactly. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Leslie. What about you?
What's my definition of modest?
Yes, thank you.
My definition of modest is knowing what to expect. So if you see somebody dressed accordingly and you're not okay with it, move on to the next one.
In other words, if you don't like it, you don't like it.
Yeah.
So you're not going to try to like it and then not like it.
No, like you can't change people.
Right.
Like just by like, hey, I don't want you wearing this because I saw you wearing this the first time. Second time, no, we're in a relationship. Now you got to change. You can't change people like that.
It's a relationship.
So you gotta
What would they gotta say? You guys gotta understand, people aren't living their life for you. They living their life for themselves.
You gotta let that, okay?
So why is it that just because they with you, they gotta change who they are? Change how they dress and change who they are.
Thank you
You
for
went to them for who they were first.
Okay, but watch this.
Jack?
Let me ask you something.
So
Wait a minute.
And I just believe black guys become possessive of the women. They want them to be a certain way.
Right.
And to me, just like, do what you do. I don't really care. Because I do me anyway.
Right. Hold on. So let's go there. I'm glad how he stopped there. He said, girls do them and guys do them. Okay, so I understand that, right? So, but then they get mad at us when we're not answering the phone call. I'm like, oh my God.
You're not talking about
we gonna expose them.
Let's try to wrap this up. Watson has a question, and Tina has a question, and we're to finish up.
Tina has a question. I need to get Tina's question. Go ahead. Please give her the mic. I need to. Sorry. Go ahead. Ask the question.
So my question is, why is it that, it's not even, it's more about, it's more females, but males too. Everybody in general. Why is it that people feel like, people are put themselves in situations where they're not really knowing their worth?
That's tricky, because I think that disconnect. Right?
Because there's some females, they know that there's a guy out there that would be good for them, that has their life together and all that, but instead they always want to go after the guy.
The bad boys?
The bad boys and stuff.
Yeah.
And then guy-wise, they know there's a girl that's good for them, but they always want to go after,
The Rihanna.
The girls that, the Rihannas, the Cardi B's and all that.
The hood rat girls.
The hood rats.
So that is just assuming immediately that Cardi B and Rihanna.
I just wonder why.
So we're gonna exit that out.
So yeah, why do people not go to true work?
I understand your point.
And then to piggyback to what Watson said, to add to it, I know a person from work who's kind of in an abusive relationship. They have a child together. She's white, he's black, and then he constantly beats on her and stuff. But she says, I love him, I don't want to report them to the police. Like, why is that mentality instilled in some females?
And I think it's instilled in everybody. So let's address that as from a human standpoint rather than from a gender, because I will tell you professionally, abuse is so both ways. Oh my God, especially when it comes to that self-worth point you're making, it's both ways. You would have males verbally, just that women can nag the world out of anybody. And although for most of my experience, the woman is not ever necessarily punching or beating, it's just the psychological abuse that comes every single day that drives the guy up the wall, which is one of those abuse that you can't really touch, you can't feel, it's not obvious because nobody's punching anybody. But then you have females on the other side, and you have males who are constantly beating on them, like I said. Reality is that any issue relating to self-worth, like you pointed out, is tricky because you can't make people change. When I see those kind of behaviors, I don't even pay them any mind. Why? Because I know there is always an underlying psychological factor. The person that is allowing somebody to beat her up, you don't know both of their stories. And not that there is a justification, but just looking at that behavior from the outside, your blood is boiling because like, what in the world is this? But I can tell you that generally speaking, from a professional standpoint, there's so much stuff going on in the background. When I work with females who are in an abusive relationship, the first meeting is not ever about getting out because I know they can't. We work on them first. We figure them out. What's your work? What are you here for? Why are you here? What is the purpose of you being alive still? Why do you hold on? What is this? We work on that. We work on their past. We call something adverse childhood experiences. That's a lot of the micro traumas that happened when you're growing up. How much of that baggage did you carry into adulthood? Do you have to deal with that first before you move on into the world? Getting out comes later, a year and a half into counseling, where you have a whole plan. You cannot believe how incredibly difficult something as easy as setting up a bank account can be for somebody in an abusive relationship. Man or woman, it doesn't matter. It's just difficult. The little things matter, and they can't do those things by themselves. That's one. When it comes to the subject of self-worth, that's something that you learn growing up. And I think a lot of us here from an immigrant community can tell how sometimes that can diverge into shenanigans real fast. Where I'm from, my side of Nigeria, we have this skin color for the most part. On the northern side, they are richer in the melanin, they're like dark. And on the East Coast, they are lighter, much lighter than you, most of the people there. It's just how it is where I'm from. You will constantly find your aunties telling you are very dark. You're so very dark. And you stay out of the sun now. Or they will tell you, why are you so short? Everybody has a booty, but not you. You know, they make those little comments constantly from childhood. And then you grow up and you're questioning yourself. Maybe I don't look okay. Maybe I'm not attractive. Maybe I'm too short. Maybe I'm too tall. Or maybe a guy is a little quiet, but they pick on him all the time. Speak up. You're always very quiet. Talk. You're supposed to talk. You're a guy. But there's nothing wrong with a guy being quiet. So a guy grows up and just loves on a lady, gives her everything she wants, takes good care of her. But the lady doesn't reciprocate. But he doesn't stop. It just keeps going. And you, as a friend, are looking like, this girl dumb. She don't like you. Leave her alone. But he can't. Because he does not even know his own value. Because all of his life, he's always been criticized for being this or not being that. Every time you see someone that doesn't seem like they are comfortable with themselves, please don't look at the behavior. That's the obvious one. That's why there's a need for empathy. There's something going on under all of that. So it's not easy to judge. Please don't judge. You should be fired for that. Make my baby cry. All right, Melina has a question.
Yo, Tina.
Tina.
Well, doesn't really feel on topic now because you were talking about abuse and stuff. But it's not really a question either. It's a statement, kind of.
Sure.
Where I had heard someone say like girls should wear something like they should wear a certain thing because guys get jealous. But I feel like if something someone else wears can cause you to be jealous, then you shouldn't really be in a relationship because if you get like super mad that your girl's wearing some shorts to go out and you're like, oh, go change your pants, it's like you can't tell someone what to wear and what not to wear, so just don't be in a relationship until you can work on yourself because that's really interfering.
Thank you very much. That's a solid statement. And that's why I said this conversation should be had in front of, younger girls so that they can learn something.
Yeah. You're the last one.
Okay. I have two questions.
Please go ahead.
Okay, so, I'm sorry for Mike. This thing on?
It is.
It wasn't.
Okay, hello.
There we go.
My first question is, I assume this would be in the African culture as well. We had already kind of like went over this topic roughly. So, growing up in like the Haitian culture and stuff, a lot of the older generations don't really believe in the whole being not mentally okay and stuff, things like depression, going through all that stuff. So like being, say like me, my age, and I'm still living with my parents and stuff, and I were to be going through depression and they don't believe in that, how can you, like what would you tell me in order for me to be able to reach out to my parents for me to get help?
Quick question, how old are you?
I'm 20.
Okay. That is a very good question. And
I'm not saying for my age now, I'm talking about for someone younger, like 16, something like they're still in their parents' household. Okay. And they are depressed and they need to find help, but their parents don't believe in it and they're trying to communicate with them to let them know, like I'm not okay. And when you get to your depression stage, you isolate yourself and stuff, and they're always like, like what's going on with you? Like they're always trying to figure like why you aren't doing what other people are doing. But you yourself, something's wrong, but you cannot speak to them about it because they don't understand where you're coming from.
And I think that right there is where your point is, which is you don't want to speak to them about it because you kind of sort of already know what they're going to say anyway. There's that dismissive factor, or you're making up excuses. Immigrant parents have a list of comebacks that they regularly use. You already know what they're going to say. What I always say to younger folks is that say it anyway. They're not going to believe you. They're not going to hear you. And I think that is why relationships are difficult. When it comes to that specific one you have with your parents, it's incredibly difficult because you can tell them, Mom, I think I'm depressed, and they're like, is it because I told you to do dishes the other day? No, for real. They will switch up on you real quickly. Yeah. But I think that going in with a more specific definition of what's going on may help. It's not like, Mom, I'm depressed. It's like, listen, the other day I cried the entire night. I haven't slept for 3 days. I am always thinking about sad stuff. I'm always thinking about hurting myself. List it out. They're still going to dismiss sometimes, but ultimately, that's why my next point is important. And this is why I work mostly with teenagers. Because in the state of Maryland, at 16 years old, you can certainly call a therapist yourself and get help yourself. You don't even need your parents' signature for it. They don't even have to know. All the teenagers I work with right now, I am not obligated to tell their parents anything if I don't want to. Actually, before I can, I have to have the 16-year-old sign me a release to talk to their parents. Now, the good news is most of them, the parents is aware, they kind of sort of got them in. But every single immigrant teenager that I have worked with in the last 10 years, I've only had one parent involved. One, and it was a dad. Generally speaking, the kids just find help from school. They go to their guidance counselor, the guidance counselor contacts me, I go talk to them because they're 16. I don't need to let, their parent doesn't need to know, which is unfortunate because your child is struggling, but she can or he cannot tell you. See what I'm saying? So the first route is always better. Just have a conversation about it, talk to them, give them information, let them know you already found a therapist and you want to go, let them know you want to talk to your pastor, whatever the case may be. If they don't listen, the moment you hit that 16 years old, go get that help yourself. They don't have to know. There is no requirement. Unless, of course, you need to be medicated, then you can give any teenager medication without their parents' consent. They don't have to agree to the medication, but they need to be aware. The law is very strict, but as a young child, younger than 16, I hate to say it like this, but immigrant children do suffer from mental health conditions and without getting help in that very young age because it's a problem. That's why I encourage parents and people like us to have conversations with parents. Sit your kid down and talk to them. They may not even need a therapist, but they need somebody to talk to. But if you're a mom or a dad and you're so tense and so strong-headed, they can't even look at you, let alone talk to you, then you can't help them. So unfortunately, there is no right answer for your question, but there are options. If that child can hold on until they're 16, it's easier moving forward. If they cannot, hopefully they have other people in the community. That's why I always encourage kids being connected to people outside of the family. Because if they can't talk to their mom or their dad, maybe they can talk to somebody or auntie, somebody who can then, you tell auntie and auntie go tell dad. And it's like a runaround. But in immigrant family, it's just incredibly difficult. So education is key. You're older. If you know a younger person, I know I'm the last one of my family, but I made it my business to advocate for all my nieces and nephews which would be my uncles and aunties. I'll call the kids. I'm like cool with the kids. But with the adults, if the kids have a problem, I'm calling like, listen, we have a problem. And I don't need you to fuss at this child because if your child is coming to me telling me what's going on with them, you have a problem. And that's the way that I go about it. But there's no right or wrong answer. There's no easy answer for that question. It's unfortunate.
Yeah. And your second question? The second one. It's the last one.
Yeah, it is. Okay, so I also noticed a lot that you said that women are easy when it comes to like expressing their feelings and emotions and stuff like that. I necessarily don't.
You're one of the different ones.
Yeah. So I'm not like that. I'm not easy with expressing telling my feelings, how I feel.
Amen.
I honestly, most of the time, I don't even know how I would put how I feel into words.
Yeah. Amen.
So like for people like me, women like me, how could I be able to self-evaluate myself if I'm going through something?
I think generally speaking, when you get to that point where you don't even have the words for what you're feeling, you already know you felt something.
Yeah.
Because generally speaking, if you can still talk about what's going on, then you're fine. Mm-hmm. But if you get to that point where you're just sitting and staring off, like everything is just mush, then you know there is a problem. And when it comes to self-evaluation, I find that if you cannot speak to people about it, it might be easier for you to sit with yourself and have that conversation with yourself. You can't judge yourself, it's easier. Compared to calling me or anybody else, compared to speaking with anybody else, sit and ask I call it a self-check-in. Literally ask yourself. I do it every day at night. How was my day? What did I accomplish today? What pissed me off today? What didn't I get to today? I've been off, my mood has been kind of sad all day today. Why? We don't do it enough. We go through every day like we're just supposed to be here. You need to sit with yourself because it's difficult. Expressing yourself or feeling what you need to feel is more difficult when you have to feel it in front of other people or with somebody else. You got to figure that out yourself. and write. If that's difficult, make a voice note to yourself. If you can't do that either, stay out from the wall for 10 minutes. And then catch yourself and say, oh, clearly there's something wrong. Sometimes you just need the right person to ask you the right questions so that you can express yourself. That's why for humans, self-evaluation is the hardest thing to do. We don't see ourselves, not the way other people see us. We just see ourselves a little different. If you can't get yourself to express your emotions to other people, see if you can do it for yourself, but you have to be intentional about it. If you're a female or you are a human, even as a guy, like I said earlier for guys, go in the bathroom, shut that door and lock it, and sit there until you figure out what's going on. And if you can't figure it out, man, that is your cue to get help. Because clearly, you can't ask yourself the right question to get the answer you're looking for. Not everybody is good at self-evaluation. As a matter of fact, most of us are not. Because we just can't see ourselves. So, rightfully so, if you're feeling something, but you are not inclined to express it because, like you said, it's just not coming out now. Maybe because that's the pressure of expressing to others that may or may not judge you. Just go on with yourself and sit with yourself and check in directly with yourself and see what happens there. And if you can't do that either and it's just kind of difficult and you went blank and you try for like 2 weeks and it's just not, then maybe it's time to reach out and see if somebody else can help you figure that out. And this applies not to you specifically. I'm just looking at you because you asked the question. But generally speaking, when we get to the point where we no longer have answers like I got many, many years ago, where I'm just like, okay, now I'm defeated. So this is then it's okay to reach out and seek help, and you don't even have to share with anyone if you don't want to. You know, just do it for yourself. Again, it goes back to the point we've been making all day. At the end of the day, you are priority. You do it for you first, and then you pick and choose who you want to care about. That's a choice. Nobody can force anybody down anybody's throat. It is your choice to do what you want. Succeed if you may, fail if you must, but keep going. I think today coming here has given me a lot of perspective, and I think that more than anything we all learned the importance of talking, because I don't know a lot of people here. Actually, I only know 2.5 people. I know you are messing, don't judge me, you know, but clearly we all seem to learn a little bit about how everybody thinks differently. There is no right or wrong, but all of us, there's still a need for us to grow at one part of our lives or the other. And more than anything, I want to thank you all for inviting me. I hope that we all got something out of this.
Well, let's give her a hand, man. She took time out to talk to us. Thank you, Ms. Ganiyat, for coming out. Everybody, we still got a whole bunch of breakfast and everything, so try not to let it go to waste. And enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you. Oh my goodness. You guys are fun.